All right. Welcome back to the Brody Show. Today's special guest is Chief Master Sergeant retired Thomas Buchanan.
Yep.
A.K.A. my father. How you doing, Dad?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Now I thought our listeners might like to hear about your trips to the Middle East. More importantly, your last trip to Iraq.
Yes, sir.
Right? Your stays at Joint Base Balad.
Correct.
Yeah, and was that Operation Iraqi Freedom?
It was.
Is that what was going on?
2008.
And you've retired. How long did you retire after that?
3 years.
3 years.
after that.
2011. Cool. Wow. So what was the mission for your organization whenever you went?
Well, in 2007, 2008, the Army was stretched so thin at the time that they asked for help from the other services. And they put in what's called a request for forces. And a lot of times it was pretty simple. If they need a cook, hey, we have cooks in the Air Force.
Okay.
We can substitute. Where it got a little crazy sometimes, they asked for, let's say, a quartermaster. Well, in the Air Force, we break a quartermaster down. In the Army, a quartermaster can get you anything.
Yeah.
In the Air Force, we break it down where you go through a trans guy to get you vehicles, a fuels guy to get you fuels, a supply guy to get you parts and stuff. So sometimes the request for force would say, I need 3 quartermasters, and we would have to go and find out, did the guy we send you, is he fulfilling the need you had?
Yeah.
And check on, how they're being bedded and housed and fed, So even though the Army had control of them day to day, the Air Force still didn't want to lose visibility of them. So we traveled around to set eyes on all these people. And it was one of the greatest trips I've ever had in my life. So for 200 and something days, my job was to travel around to 56 FOBs throughout the whole AOR.
FOBs?
Forward operating bases. Yeah. And put eyes on these guys and find out, on the bad side, which didn't happen a lot, they asked for a cook. And we get there and find out he's being a gunner on a Humvee. Yeah. Well, that's a foul too there. So that didn't happen very often. So me and my colonel would go out. The colonel would meet with the TACON commander, tactical control commander, and I'd meet with the TACON command sergeant major, and we would hash out any problems. We didn't have a lot of problems. They were thrilled to have airmen working for them. So it was terrific. 1,500 airmen, 56 FOBs were under our AOR. So,
wow. What?
Yeah, so even though I was at Joint Base Balad, I didn't sleep there very often.
Yeah.
We would go out at 3 and 4 days in a row and hit FOBs. And
with Hummers or with the black
anyway, if we were going to another air base, sometimes we could get on a fixed wing aircraft. But most of the little FOBs, it was rotary type aircraft. I think I only had to take 2 convoys the whole time I was there.
And was that a pretty serious moment when you have to take those?
Yeah.
With the movies and the shows, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But thank God, nothing
happened.
Nothing happened.
So what was like the funniest thing that happened out there while you're in Iraq?
Funniest. Okay, I got there in December, and the Black Hawk helicopters all had their windows in at that point because it's winter. So the first flight me and my colonel took, I jumped in the back right seat of the Black Hawk helicopter, facing forward.
Yeah.
And the colonel said, "Oh, you're taking the hurricane seat." And I didn't want to act like a rookie, so I said, "Yeah, I'm taking the hurricane seat."
Man up. Take it.
So I flew all winter in that seat. Well, come spring, they take the windows out of the Black Hawks. And me and a good friend, Chief Master Sergeant retired Paul Wheeler, were taking a trip into the Green Zone one time, and I sat there in that seat that I've sat in 50 times by then, and it's only 7 minutes from Balad into the Green Zone. It was the longest 7 minutes of my life. It has something to do with the way the aircraft are the propellers turning and the pitch of it, that if the Black Hawk's going 160 miles an hour, the guy who's sitting in that seat is getting 160 mile an hour of wind hitting them dead in the face. And it screws up your breathing because you exhale, but you go to inhale and you realize your lungs are already full again just from the forced air, you know? So anyway, it was the longest 7 minutes of my life. So anytime we got a new person in, they always wanted to sit there. They want to take pictures of the Iraqi countryside. And so this new chief comes in, and we're taking a trip together to Foward, and he almost elbows me out of the way to get there and take a picture. Well, right across from that seat is one facing forward. So I got there and got my camera out and just watched him as we got up to speed, and it hit him, and I'm taking pictures of him. And so he, as soon as we land, he undoes the seatbelt and he sits next to me, and he goes, why didn't you tell me about that? So when there's no military to move, they allow third country nationals to move. A lot of our contracting, a lot of people working in our chow halls and stuff like that are third country nationals.
Wow.
So they allow them to move. So here comes a group of about 12 of them, and we were in two helicopters. Excuse me. And this guy couldn't have weighed 130 pounds soaking wet. And he's wearing this old Korean helmet, Korean War type helmet,
man.
Which is 3 times too big for him. His chin strap is, dangling underneath his chin. It's not tight. He has no protective eyewear. And he sits in the hurricane seat. And Colonel Rickert was with us on that trip, and he's trying to be a nice guy because it's got a 4-point harness system.
Yeah.
2 that come around here, and then 2 that come over your shoulder.
All right.
Well, once you get in, you pull these straps down as tight as you can. And that leaves, about 18 inches of dangling strap underneath your arm. Well, if you don't grab those things, they will beat you to death. So Colonel Rickert is yelling. Now, keep in mind the helicopter's running, so Colonel Rickert's going, hold on to the straps. So this guy, who probably doesn't even speak English, he reaches up here and grabs the straps that are already tight. And he's like this. So 18 inches of dangling strap are underneath both arms. We got up to speed. That wind hit his big old helmet. It forces it against the bulkhead. He's being choked by his helmet. Meanwhile, he will not let go of these things, and the excess straps are just beating him to death. Yeah. I had tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard. Then he's tearing because he has no protective eyewear. He starts tearing, and his tears are running up into his scalp line. And it was the funniest moment I've ever had in my entire life. I feel so bad for him, but he would not let go of those straps. He didn't know. He didn't understand. I guess he thought this was keeping him inside the helicopter. If I let go of this, I'm a dead man. So
what was that poor guy doing out there?
Oh,
he's about to go work at the chow hall.
Had another fob, probably. You're absolutely right. So that was probably my funniest moment.
That's funny. Well, I'm glad we had some of that, because we should, while we're here, bring up like your scariest moment and just throw that out there, because I know there's got to be a couple death-defying situations you might have had.
Okay. My scariest moment while in Iraq, well, first off, a rocket or a mortar, it's sort of impersonal. It's just sort of shooting it at a base and hoping they hit something.
Yeah.
So, you're always jumping in bunkers or going to inner hallways and stuff. And, you're a little frightened, but, there's nothing you can do. At that point, it's either going to hit you or it's not going to hit you. But when somebody's pointing a gun at you, that...
a lot more personal.
That is personal then. So, but before I start the story, like a movie, a scary movie, The Exorcist or Jaws or whatever, you get scared. You get really frightened, but you're not in any danger. Well, come to find out, I was not in any danger, but I didn't know that at the time. I was at a fob up in Mosul, and that was the first fob I'd been to that is that close to the city. I mean, the city came right up to the fence line, and then we've got this, 10-foot tall fence with 3 strands of barbed wire on top of it, or concertina wire. And I'm staying at a little compound just 50 yards from that fence line. So we had this little compound that I was staying at had T-walls, which is a concrete upside-down T. And it's surrounded everybody and had a cipher lock on the gate.
Yeah.
So I had met some great airmen that day, and it was late at night, probably 10, 11 o'clock. And my CHU, my containerized housing unit, we call them CHUs,
yeah,
was like 2 doors down from the CHU that we turned into a bathroom. So here's something that's sort of humorous. Army regulations, a soldier takes his weapon everywhere. If you got to go, you take a number deuce in the middle of the night, you're going to have your weapon. You're going to have your weapon with you. The Air Force says if you're in a secure environment, like behind some concertina wire, you do not have to take your weapon all the place as long as you have it stored behind 2 locks. So your CHU door is lock number 1, and you have it locked in a closet inside there.
That's the second lock.
That's the second lock. So it's like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I'm in my I'm wearing it today. This is my PT uniform.
Yeah.
When you're not on duty, the only other thing you can wear is your PT uniform. So I'm down in the bathroom, brushing my teeth. I think I just got out of the shower. My weapons, my 2 weapons, my M4 and my 9mm are locked behind 2 locks back in my CHU. And me and a soldier were in there. And big guy, and we hear some shouting. And, we always have those window units running, so it's hard to make out. So we hear some shouting. He opens the door, and we hear enemy in our compound. And, man, if I didn't have to use the bathroom before that, I needed to use the bathroom after that, because now it's got personal. And the first thing I thought is, kiss my ass, where's my weapon, And the soldier looks at me and goes, let's clear this sidewalk. And I said, felt like an idiot. I'll be right back. So I ran the 10 feet, unlocked that door, unlocked my locker, grabbed my M4, loaded the magazine, racked around into the chamber, turned it on to fire. First time I'd been like that other than a firing range.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of taking my cues from him. He's had a lot more training in it than I have. So we're going down this sidewalk, and those CHUs are only parked maybe 2.5 feet apart from each other, just enough so the window units don't hit each other. That's how far apart they're parked.
Tiny alleyways.
Yeah, very tiny alleyways. So we get up to the first alleyway, and the soldier says, checking left, and I see him turn his gun down that dark alleyway. So I said, checking right, and I felt like such an idiot. I don't know if you can see this or not, son, but there's all this reflective stuff in this uniform.
Reflective.
And on the back, it's even bigger. It's like a sign saying, shoot me, because we put this on there so when we're PTing in the morning or in the evening, people can see us,
Yeah, don't run you over.
Don't run me over. But we never thought about it in a combat situation, I guess. So everything down that alleyway looked like a bad guy to me. It could have been a trash bag or something. I'm surprised I didn't unload everything I had. I was so scared. My heart was beating so hard. So we make it past first alleyway. I more or less took the at it, nobody shot at me, so there must not be nobody down there, So we go to the next alleyway, and we do the same thing. And we're at the third alleyway when we hear flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop coming at us. And, it's coming from the darkness. So me and the soldier just both turn our guns right down that sidewalk. And, my finger is on the trigger. And the first thing I saw, believe it or not, was this
reflective
Air Force emblem. And I took my finger off the trigger, and it was the master sergeant that I spent some time with earlier that day. And he was going, false alarm, false alarm. I talked to the last guy that came through the gate.
False alarm, you almost just got blasted.
Yeah, he doesn't know how close he came. But he talked to the last person through the gate, and he goes, "Are you sure you closed it?" And the guy goes, "Well, I swung it shut, but I didn't, check it afterwards." So that whole ordeal, from the time we heard enemy in the compound to almost shooting my Master Sergeant brother, probably did not take more than 3.5, 4 minutes. But
scary as
for
hell.
3.5, 4 minutes, I thought there was somebody pointing a gun at me down every single one of those alleyways I checked, man. And but come to find out, I was in no danger at all afterwards. But boy, I didn't know that at the time.
It's interesting how the brain does that to one.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
So,
well, glad nothing bad happened. We should maybe move on to the most rewarding experience you possibly got from your little trip to Iraq.
Okay, most rewarding. Okay, let me tell you about this kid. Most FOBs and bases we had, had minimum of like 3. Most of them, a dozen, and many of the bigger camps in Iraq we had over 100 airmen at. Well, there was this one FOB way down south called FOB Echo, and it was so off the beaten path, it was hard to get to. And my colonel was on his mid-tour. He was stationed there for a year, so he was back on his mid-tour vacation. And he reminds me, hey, we really need to get down to FOB Echo. We have one dog handler there. So I said, yes, sir. So I head off on my own.
That sounds like a mission in itself.
But, by then I'd been on, a dozen or so. So no problem. I'll go visit this guy. Well, I didn't know how far out of the way FOB Echo was and how far south it was.
Oh, man.
And a lot of the helicopters will get you halfway there, and then they're turning around to come back to the north. So you're waiting around in a tent, passenger terminal tent, more or less, waiting for another helicopter. And then, like 12 hours go by, and I get on one that only takes me 15 minutes and drops me off, and he's going back to the north. And then I wait around, and I'm talking to people. How do I get to FOB Echo? And somebody goes, hey, we got a convoy going. It's not going to get you to FOB Echo, but it's going to get you closer.
Closer, yeah.
So I took a convoy to this other FOB, and get off there, and I said, hey, I find the passenger terminal. Any helicopters come through here going to FOB Echo? And they go, yeah, we got like one a day that comes through. So I waited around. So from the time I left Balad to the time I got to FOB Echo, almost 3 complete days had passed.
Oh, my God.
I hadn't slept. The only sleep I got was in a gray folding chair, in a passenger tent. 3 days worth of growth. Felt dirty in my uniform.
Robert Redford.
I was not in a pleasant mood. Let's just put it that way. So I get there, and I asked the guy at the passenger terminal, I said, hey, you know where the dog training area is? And the guy says, yeah, I think it's in the northeast corner or whatever. So it's a small FOB, so I'm walking, which put me in a even worse mood because when I weighed 225 in them days, and when I put all my battle rattle on, helmet, the 2 weapons, all the ammunition for the weapons, and my backpack, I went to 330.
Oh my
So from
God.
225 to 330, and I was, 45 at the time, so...
that is a heck of a lot of weight to carry.
Yeah, so I wasn't in the best of moods. And I find this area, a fenced-in area, that looks like it could be a dog training area. I thought I saw a squeaky toy or a chew toy in there. So I knocked on the door. And I'm not being quiet anymore. I'm banging on doors, And it's the kennel master. And he says, yes, sir, your airman just got back. He's a staff sergeant. He just got back at dawn. He was out all night, so he might be asleep. Well, I was in no mood to be put off, so I said, I don't care. He lives 2 or 3 doors down, so I go down there and I knock on his door. Boom, boom, boom. And he answers. And he's bigger than I am. And he's got the Air Force PT uniform on.
PT shirt.
And the blue shorts and this shirt. And he sees my stripes, and he takes a step forward and gives me the biggest bear hug a man has ever given another man. And he goes, man, I am so happy to see you. You're the first airman I have seen since I've been here. And he'd been there like 6-7 weeks. And all that sourness I had, it just evaporated. It just went away when he gave me that hug. And one thing about dog handlers, they love showing off their dogs. So he brings me inside, and we play with this dog for a while. And you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, what a life this guy's got. You know, going outside the wire every night, detecting
with the dog,
detecting explosives, trying to keep, you know, everybody safe and find bad guys and stuff. And so we played with this dog for about an hour, and then he took me over to the chow hall. We ate lunch together, said grace together. He walked me to the passenger tent and waited around with me until I got on a flight back to Balad.
Yeah.
So from the time I landed to the time I left, no more than 3.5 hours went by. Most rewarding 3.5 hours I've ever spent.
Man, I bet you it was great. I bet you he's telling the same kind of stories.
I hope he is.
Somewhere else in there.
Because he surely touched me.
Man, that is awesome to hear. That's cool, man. And, you know, having a dog out there, I bet you that was great for you to even getting to mess with the dog while you've been out there.
Yeah, you try to forget, you know, I don't know if you know or not, but almost every dog had a $25,000 US dollar bounty on its head for bad guys. So bad guys did not like our military working dogs.
That's interesting. Well, Pops, I hear you're making another trip down to the Camino soon, right?
Yeah, I think this summer gonna try it for the second time.
All right. Yeah, and last year you went on the Camino de Francis trail?
Well, they're all called Camino de Santiago. I did do the Francis route but it was in 2013.
That's right.
2013. So this time I'm going to try the northern route, which follows the Atlantic coast of northern Spain all the way to the west and then drops you down into Santiago de Compostela.
I bet you that'll be
40 days. It's going to be a beast.
Long journey.
Yeah.
The movie The Way with Martin Sheen.
Part 2.
There you go.
We're going to do the northern route.
All right. Well, thanks, Dad, for coming on the Brody Show.
All right. Oh, you're welcome.
And remember, guys, follow, like us, and subscribe on YouTube. And I promise I'll have us up in iTunes right when we have a few more podcasts. Because everyone likes binge watching. So I'm going to give them something to binge watch when they get on iTunes. But remember, guys, thanks for watching the Brody Show, and catch us next time.